and welcome to this edition of EMS Now Up Close. I am Eric Miskell with EMS Now, and today it's my pleasure to speak with Anthony Bradbury. He's the Managing Director for Mycronic in the UK and Ireland. Anthony, this is timely because by the time we post this next week, I will be in the UK traveling around visiting EMS companies. So I'm glad to start the week with you, so to speak. Listen, I'm glad for the opportunity. We have not met yet, so why don't I begin by allowing you just to introduce yourself and what your role is within Mycronic.
Sure, yeah, thanks, Eric. So I've been at Mycronic now for 2 years, and I'm the Managing Director of the UK and Ireland subsidiary.
Okay, well, that's easy, isn't it? Let's begin with kind of what is happening within UK, for Mycronic specifically, within the UK and Ireland. What's happening in your area?
Yeah, sure. Great question. So we're experiencing really strong growth at the moment. The market is very buoyant. Our install base is growing. So things is, business is really good. So absolutely fantastic. We are kind of retooling for growth. A lot of what we've been doing over the past 18 months is sort of really panning out now. So we have more conversations with more people, bringing new people into our remit, and so it's going really well. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Go bigger then. How is the overall SMT market performing in your area?
Yeah, so again, very strong. I mean, obviously we read reports of recession potentially in certain parts of Europe, but so far all we're hearing from customers is good. So our customers are spending a lot. I think part of that is the Mycronic product range is very well suited to UK markets. So we have a lot of defense, smaller independent OEMs, that sort of thing. So not so much the big blue chips. So especially those companies that need high flex, low to mid volume production, really, really good growth. Have they been holding off investment? I think really not. I think it's just a case of, their customers are growing, and they keep getting pressure from their customers, want more products. So it's a great time. It's a boom time.
Well, that's good. Now, so do you foresee that continuing to be pretty buoyant moving forward? Or
I think I do. I mean, obviously there are some reports of slowing down in certain parts of the market, but I would say, generally we've got the positive effect from reshoring of supply chains, coming closer to home, and I think just as well, a lot of product innovation happening in the marketplace. So, great ideas on new products, perhaps we wouldn't have considered even 5 years ago. So new products coming to market. So I think all of the above, there's a lot of momentum there. So it's going to dip at some point, but hopefully not too soon.
okay, good. Now, listen, I used to run a production facility many years ago, and I remember green light's good, red light's bad, right on the line. So, and that's that idea of kind of achieving your maximum utilization, and that's every production manager's dream, right?
Sure.
How can they go about doing this?
Yeah, sure. Well, if you just wouldn't mind showing the first slide there.
Oh yeah, let me pull that up real quick.
Yeah. So this is just a slide. Let me introduce it. So it's very much how we kind of see the SMT world of production, the ecosystem. And if you kind of have a look at this, all the different aspects here of SMT, you've got engineering, you've got logistics, planning and scheduling, what have you. So in an ideal world, everybody talks to each other, everybody knows what everyone's doing, everybody knows what best practice is. But of course, in the real world, things happen, things come along, things that you haven't predicted come along. If you wouldn't mind just advancing that slide, just with a click there, Eric. So what we see happening now,
there it is. Yes.
is there we go, superb. So for example, let's read a couple of these off. So perhaps components have gone missing, for example. Perhaps components you ordered a small amount, you expected them to come on a real carrier and they've arrived on a stick instead, or perhaps you've got some customer who's sort of screaming, wanting their order to jump your production. So really what we talk about in terms of winning in the utilization world, it's very much about foreseeing these events and really trying to be as flexible as possible. So if you kind of look at the production equation, one side you've got predictability, you know what's coming in, you know what the components are on the shelf, you know what orders are coming, that sort of thing. The nice kind of bit that we all want to work with. On the other side of the equals equation, you've got flexibility. And now in an ideal world, you could kind of big up on the predictability and everything would go well. But because most of those unpredictable things are beyond your control to a certain extent. They are external factors. Our approach is very much all about maximizing your flexibility. So, buying the right equipment so you can be fully flexible no matter what is kind of thrown at you. So,
Okay, that makes sense. So then what do you think are the biggest hindrances to achieving this?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think firstly, you've got to make sure that you have good buy-in from management. So don't try and isolate people within the business. Make sure you get everyone involved, like any sort of change management program. Get people involved right from the get-go, and then they feel like they're kind of involved, which means you're going to have buy-in kind of later on and what have you. Also, as well, I would say, make sure you have a good kind of financial base for this. So we do this as a program. We call it My Utilization with some of our customers. And what we really try and do is find out how we can monetize the savings that improved utilization will bring to them. So one of the things we're very keen on is finding out, if you made these changes, how much extra production could you get through your plant in a year, for example? Is that £1.5 million? Is it 2 million? That kind of thing. And of course, when people see the impact of that, it's kind of, really helps to kind of get everyone's buy-in as well.
Yeah.
Could you advance to the next slide as well, please?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I think another thing in terms of how we go about this, I think it's good to think about where you are as a business. So we do seminars sometimes, and we kind of show this curve here. We call it the utilization curve, and we try and get people to think about where they're at. So down on the bottom here, on the bottom left, you've got a level 1. Going up to kind of a more professional outfit, level 5, and it's obviously different stages on this journey. So maybe stage 1 might be someone who's really not bothered about utilization. They're making some money, but they don't really have any appetite to do anything. Maybe a kind of stage 2 company is a company who knows that they could do better, and they're thinking about it but not really doing anything. And then maybe 3 and 4 could be companies who are very much aware they need to do something. They've started to take measurements already, and they've started to make changes, and there's a bit of a culture within the company to do something about that. And then maybe a stage 5 company might be all of the above, plus they're kind of using real-time live data on their line, so that if there's a problem with the board, they don't find out once 100 boards have been produced and need to be reworked. They've actually preempted that or found out after the first board, that kind of stuff. So they've got live data and they're kind of living and breathing that stuff. So I think that's an important part. And I think what you have to remember as well, if you want to take these steps, is you can't jump from step 1 to step 5. You kind of need to have a plan over time and be realistic. Just do a little bit at a time.
Okay. Excellent. And I'm assuming what we're looking at there too is just one of the dashboards that the system provides to be able to manage the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a product called My Center Analysis. So it's live. So typically this would be on a big screen above a placement machine, and you could look at all these metrics. Or as well, perhaps a production engineer in their room could keep looking at this dashboard as well, just to kind of see how it's all going, looking at attrition rates or whatever. So absolutely, yeah. Just one more slide, I think, Eric, would be helpful as well for the viewers.
There we go.
So just again, in terms of taking steps forward, moving forward, and about being realistic. So this is actually again what we present when we do a My Utilization consultation with our customers. Is we like to map out. We spend several hours with them, develop where they are as a business over a period of a few weeks, and then we kind of produce this live for them, and we put on the different aspects here. So what we've got here in the bottom left is the as is scenario, which is your scenario today. What does production look like today? What is your utilization today? And then kind of over on the top right there, what is your to be status? Where do you want to aim for in this particular cycle that you are focusing on? And of course, what we've got here over time is different things here. So just to pick a few off here, one of the first things might be MPIs always interrupting production. So maybe send your engineers on an MPI training course just to kind of get them to be a bit more flexible and what have you. Or it might be something to do with implementing some special kitting software that's going to optimize your production. So we like to say make it achievable and make it realistic. And I think, what's interesting as well in terms of utilization is, what is utilization? So people have a different opinion of what that is. Many people overestimate this. If you ask a big room, normally you get the guys really confident, yeah, we kind of run 80% utilization. And but we actually define utilization as the time or the percentage of time that your placement machine or your line is actually placing components. Not that the time the program is called up on the machine or when you press the green button, but it's actually producing worthwhile work. So the production machine isn't waiting for components or waiting for something downstream. So actually, when you look at all that, we actually find in the real world that most lines are operating somewhere between 10 and 25%. So way less than half of the hours in a productive week are actually used, building boards that you can actually charge revenue on. And just out of interest, obviously for an OEM, it's easy. You've got few products that you can have a more predictable workflow, and we normally find probably in the real world, it's probably they're topping out at 60%. Which might surprise some of your listeners. And then in the contract manufacturing world, again, if you've got everything singing sweetly, probably, realistically, you're looking at 45%. So again, just in the big thing, in terms of taking steps, do measure your true utilization to start with. It's probably a little bit shocking, but going forward, you can, pick yourself up off the floor and step forward with a plan.
Yeah, no. I will say the one that I really appreciated on this one, I saw it was the whole replace the feeder system one, because, that is such a critical piece.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, so, with Mycronic equipment, we kind of like to boast, we believe that we are, that we have the fastest changeover machines in the industry. So we would aim for our customers to have a changeover of 10 minutes as opposed to a few hours. And, just tweaking that feeder system or just buying more feeders. So obviously you can prep the next job, makes a real big impact, because, this whole kind of world of SMT, prepping the job beforehand, getting the components right, knowing where they are. I mean, that's a big piece as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. If it's okay, I'm going to stop the slides at this point,
sure.
Anthony, and bring us back into clarity here. Let me see. What do you see then as, this is the goal, but what are the biggest impediments to this?
Yeah, I think we've talked already, haven't we, in terms of make sure you've got appetite within the business for this.
Yeah.
Make sure that the production guys are talking to the boardroom, for example, and maybe even talking to the procurement and sales team as well. Make sure that everyone's kind of joined up. If your production guy instigating this, for example, make sure you've got a bit of a business case maybe before you kind of present it to management to say, hey, this is why we need to start looking at that. So make sure you've got buying. And again, as we've just seen, make sure you've got you have a plan. So the slide you've just seen there, that's still at the early stages of a utilization program, but
Right.
make sure, whether you get people to sign it off or not, I don't know, maybe that's a step too far, but just make sure people can kind of see it's going to happen over time. It's realistic. Yeah, we can fit this into our production. We don't have to get it all done in 2 weeks or whatever. So I think it's the old kind of change management stuff. Just get people involved.
Right. And what I hear you saying is really it's a cultural thing there too, right? Get people out of their silos and acting more at a corporate level rather than in their own individual interests,
Absolutely.
so to speak,
Sure.
right? So
yeah.
So then what's your advice for pulling the stakeholders together around that?
Yeah, sure. I think again, make sure everyone's on board. I mean, that's the whole kind of mantra there. We've said that a few times, haven't we?
Yeah.
What does good utilization look like? So make sure that you define best practice, because it means different things to different people. So if you have a larger organization with perhaps several people in your stores department, they've got an opinion what utilization looks like and where they need to go, and perhaps like the increment they can see.
Right.
People on the shop floor might have a different opinion, and then maybe the FD, the financial director, has got a completely different opinion as well. And of course, for him, it's all about bottom line and about perhaps the capacity you can save on the machine, or you can free up rather, and what that's going to mean in terms of dollar cents, pounds and euros. So again, just kind of get buying really. And like you say, it's a cultural thing. Changing culture doesn't happen overnight. You've got to be patient. You can't flip a switch. So I guess as well, if you're going to be driving this, you have to, mentally prepare yourself. It could be a long haul. Just keep in there. Just keep drop feeding, and you'll kind of get there in the end.
Yeah, and celebrate the wins along the way too.
Absolutely.
To encourage that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, part of this, and I know one of Mycronic's value propositions is kind of that single source, kind of the full line solution, right? So talk about that. What role does that single source full line solution play in achieving the goal of maximum utilization?
Yeah, great question. So I'd say, one of the big headlines is that we need to measure what matters, which is, absolutely no revelation to anyone in production engineering. Everybody knows that. But again, we come across many companies who aren't measuring. So the beauty of a unified line is that, each system can talk to itself, and you can harvest data that not only you can see just to review and monitor what's going on, but of course, each process stage, whether it be printing or storage or placement or optical inspection, they can all talk to each other, so they can kind of make improvements and modifications on the hub. So that's a real beauty. The ideal world, each kind of machine talking together. Let me give you some examples. So if we kind of chronologically think about production now, if we start with just getting the components and doing the kitting, for example. So we do have a whole complete suite of storage towers where you can store components and carries that kind of stuff. Why is that useful? As we've said already, just getting the components, getting the job prepped up is really useful. So if you have a full line solution, for example, even think about if a job's running at the moment and one of the reels is running down on components, that can send a message to the storage tower to say, hey, this component's running low. And then the storage tower, then presents a reel. And so you can avoid a stoppage, for example. So that's just a simple thing in terms of keeping the machine fed. Another thing to focus on now in the world of printing. So it's commonly assumed that most printing problems, or 80% of SMT failures, are due to printing issues. That's commonly accepted. So we'd be very big as well in terms of solder paste inspection as well. And then actually tying that up with what we see on the AOI. So, use solder paste inspection, get an image of that board, and then if you see an issue in the AOI stage post reflow, perhaps you've got a BGA that's not quite, not quite level with the board, you can then quickly see the two images together and see, is it a paste issue or something gone wrong in reflow or whatever. So again, just having all this data that can speak to each other is kind of really helpful. And I think just a final comment on this point as well, measure what matters, but buy the best equipment you can as well. Don't be hoodwinked into kind of looking at data sheets, perhaps for an AOI, great images, fast inspection speeds, that sort of thing. I mean, that's all really good. But then again, think about the wider world. So think about, if you've got a new board, how long does it take to program that new board, for example? And then perhaps once that board's running, I mean, and we all know AOI can be very laborious, getting that data fed into the system. So it's important to make sure that bit's going to be productive. So things like, for example, when you buy an inspection system, make sure you have a demonstration in terms of, if you've got, if you're trying to reduce your false call rate, for example, and you want to open up the tolerances to let more boards or components go through, have you got a system that's going to be able to quantify that? For example, you're not going to get any boards let through that shouldn't get let through, for example. Are you going to eliminate false calls, and are you going to actually stop escapes as well? So there's just think about the whole kind of wider piece again. Another image we like to we tell people is we show people an image of a highway with lots of sports cars there, high performance sports cars, but they're in a traffic jam. They can't go anywhere. So what is the point of buying a kind of high spec big kind of V8 sports car if you can't drive it that quick? So we'd say go beyond the kind of speeds and feeds of the machine. Look at the bigger picture. Look at the usability, the interfacing, and the productivity of the user.
Yeah, I like that image. That's very good, actually. I appreciate that. So for our audience, our listeners who hear this, who are interested in maybe learning more or pursuing the goal of maximizing their utilization, how can Mycronic help them?
Yeah, sure. Well, we'd love you to get in contact with us. You can reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn, Anthony Bradbury at Mycronic, if you want. I'd say probably two ways. So you've seen a little bit of a snapshot in terms of what we do with our customers, in terms of helping them, uncover their current utilization. We really do help them with that. And then perhaps where you could be. So if you're interested in that, do reach out to us. If you're a customer, or even if you're not a customer as well, if you don't know who your local Mycronic representative is, do let me know and I'll put you in touch. And then secondly as well, we do offer a full line solution. We like to think that we are, really key in terms of the high flex marketplace, mid to low volume. So we've got a great product for you. So we'd like to hear from you as well.
Yeah, and to be clear too, clients can engage anywhere in that full line service. They don't have to buy everything. They could.
Yeah, sure. Hey, we'd love to sell everyone a full line, but it doesn't always happen. So absolutely, yeah. So each of those process steps we think would make a big difference for you. Yeah, good point.
Clearly, there's value in the synergy of them. So, but I'm just for the benefit of the audience out there. Before we go, what to expect from Mycronic, especially in your area for the remainder of 2023? Anything?
Well, in the UK in particular?
Yeah. Or
yeah, sure.
overall, yeah. Or
yeah,
if you have
sure.
maybe something new coming out. So
okay, all right. Well, if we've got anything new, I possibly couldn't say anything about it, but maybe turn up at my Productronica, maybe. But yeah, in the UK, so that's a really good point. So a big shout out. So we've got a couple of open days in the northwest of the UK. At the end of June, I think it's like 27th, 28th of June. We're going to be sending out some more emails on that. We're talking about utilization. We're talking about all these process steps. And also as well, later in the year, we'll do a big webinar, probably Europe-wide, again, all about my utilization. So what we spoke about today, we'll speak about it for about 40, 50 minutes, get some, participation going as well. So kind of look out for that. Probably going to do that October, November time.
Excellent. Something to look forward to. Hopefully we can promote it for you on EMS Now as well. We'd be glad to. So
that'd be great.
Excellent. Anthony, it has indeed been a pleasure to meet you today, to engage with you. You seem to be a great ambassador for your brand there. So so thank you for the time. Thank you for the insights. I know the audience will appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Eric. It's been great. Let's do it again sometime. Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care.
Bye-bye.